The transport ship moved slowly through space toward Kepler Station. Inside the small passenger area, Jake Morrison checked his uniform one more time. The black fabric with silver trim looked strange next to the colorful clothes worn by alien passengers around him. He was the first human to visit the famous Galactic Defense Academy, and he felt nervous about making a good first impression. 3 younger humans sat near him. Lisa Harper had short brown hair and steady eyes that never seemed to miss anything. She used to be a Marine on Earth before joining this mission. Ryan O'Brien was tall and thin with red hair, and he moved like he was always ready for action. He came from Navy Special Operations. Alex Turner was the youngest, with blonde hair and a quick smile. He had been an Air Force pilot before being chosen for this program. The ship's speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in the common galactic language that all the humans had learned during their training. Attention passengers, we are now approaching Kepler Station. Please prepare for docking procedures. Through the small window, Jake could see the massive structure ahead of them. Kepler Station was huge, with spinning sections and gleaming metal, surfaces that caught the light from the nearby star. Ships from dozens of different worlds were docked at various ports. Some looked like insects made of metal, others were smooth and round like pearls, and a few seemed to be made entirely of crystal. "Look at that," Alex whispered, pressing his face to the window. "I've seen pictures, but this is incredible." Lisa nodded but kept her expression calm. "Remember, we're representing all of humanity here. We need to show them we belong." Ryan stretched his arms above his head. "I just hope their training is challenging enough. I didn't come all this way to go through basic exercises." Jake smiled at their confidence. Earth's military leaders had chosen these 3 carefully. They were young, smart, and skilled, but they had no idea what they were walking into. The Galactic Defense Academy had been training alien warriors for 300 years. Every species in the known galaxy sent their best fighters to learn from each other. The docking process took 20 minutes. When the airlock finally opened, Jake led his team into the station. The first thing that hit them was the smell. Not bad, just different. The air had a metallic taste with hints of something that reminded Jake of ocean water and fresh flowers mixed together. The corridor they walked through was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jake had to crane his neck to see it. Beings from different worlds moved past them in both directions. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others had 4 or 6 legs, and a few seemed to float just above the ground. A tall figure approached them. It looked like a person, but its skin was pale blue and covered in small crystal formations that sparkled in the light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome to Kepler Station. I am Commander Zelith of the Vorthan Defense Corps. You must be the human delegation we have been expecting." Jake stepped forward and tried to remember the proper greeting gesture. He placed his right hand over his heart and bowed slightly. "I am Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, representing Earth's military forces. These are cadets Harper, O'Brien, and Turner." Commander Zelith made a sound that might have been approval. "Your pronunciation of our language is quite good. Follow me, please. General Klixth is waiting to meet you in the Academy briefing room." They walked through corridors filled with beings Jake had only seen in training videos. A group of what looked like giant insects with 4 arms. Each was having an animated discussion near a wall display. Several reptilian creatures with scales that shifted color as they moved were practicing some kind of martial arts routine. In one corner, beings that appeared to be made of living rock were lifting weights that would have been impossible for humans to move. "The Academy houses representatives from 12 different species," Commander Zelith explained as they walked. "Each brings unique skills and knowledge to share with the others. The Krathari are our best close combat specialists. The Thakari excel at tactical planning. The Sauron are masters of defensive strategies." Lisa looked around with interest. "What about humans? What are we supposed to be good at?" Commander Zelith paused for a moment. "That is something we are hoping to discover." They entered a large circular room with a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars outside. Around an oval table sat beings from different worlds. Jake recognized some of them from his briefings. The largest was clearly General Clixith, a Thakari who looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider, with 4 arms and compound, eyes that reflected the light. "Ah, our human friends have arrived," General Clixith said in a voice that clicked and buzzed. "Please take your seats. We have much to discuss." The humans sat in chairs that adjusted automatically to their size and shape. Jake noticed that every other species had at least one piece of special equipment with them: breathing apparatus, heating pads, or small devices that hummed quietly. "Before we begin your training," General Clixith continued, "we must review your world's environmental data. This will help us understand what accommodations you might need." A holographic display appeared above the table. It showed Earth spinning slowly, with data scrolling beside it. Jake heard several sharp intakes of breath from around the table. "Your gravity is 1.7 times our standard," said a pelagic officer whose blue skin was covered in what looked like fish scales. "How do you function under such crushing force?" "The atmospheric pressure varies wildly across your planet," added a Zentorian whose large eyes dominated its pale face. "Some areas have pressure that would kill most of us instantly." "And the weather," whispered a Sauron whose scales were turning dark green with what Jake guessed was fear. "Temperature swings of more than 60 degrees in a single day. Storms with winds faster than our spacecraft. Water falling from the sky in quantities that would flood our cities." The display showed more data: earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, and ice ages. The list of natural disasters that regularly hit Earth seemed endless. "Your oceans contain predators larger than our warships," General Clixith observed. "Your land masses are populated by creatures that hunt in packs and have weapons built into their bodies. Even your plant life is often poisonous or carnivorous." Alex raised his hand slightly. Is this a problem? I mean, that's just Earth. That's normal. For us." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Finally, Dr. Velix, a Zentorian scientist, spoke up. "Normal? Young human, your world is classified as a Class 12 hostile environment. We use planets like yours as examples of worlds where intelligent life cannot develop." "But we did develop," Lisa said simply. "We're here." "Yes," Commander Zelith said slowly, "you are here," which raises many questions about what exactly we should expect from your training performance. General Clixith stood up, his forearms moving in what Jake recognized as a gesture of formal declaration. "The Galactic Defense Academy has trained warriors from 12 species for 3 centuries. We have established protocols, standards, and expectations based on extensive experience. However, your species presents unique circumstances." He paused and looked directly at each human. "We will begin with our standard orientation exercise tomorrow. It is designed to test basic survival skills and teamwork under mildly challenging conditions. Based on your planet's data, this may be quite easy for you. We will adjust our methods as needed." The meeting continued for another hour, covering schedules, rules, and expectations. Jake noticed that the alien officers kept glancing at the Earth data display with expressions he couldn't quite read. Some looked worried, others seemed curious, and a few appeared almost frightened. As they were leaving, Commander Zelith approached Jake privately. "Lieutenant Commander Morrison, I must ask you something in confidence. The cadets you have brought, are they truly your military academy graduates? They seem very young for warriors from such a dangerous world." Jake smiled. "They're exactly what you asked for. Recent graduates from our military academies." "Why do you ask?" "Because," Commander Zelith said quietly, "every other species sends their most experienced veterans to this academy. Warriors who have proven themselves in actual combat. You have sent children." "Not children," Jake corrected gently. "They're adults who have completed full military training. They may be young, but they're ready for whatever you can teach them." Commander Zelith made that wind chime sound again. "We shall see, Lieutenant Commander. We shall see." That night, as Jake settled into his quarters, he wondered if Earth's military leaders had made a mistake. The academy was clearly designed for alien species with different capabilities and limitations. How would human cadets perform in an environment created by and for beings who had never experienced Earth's harsh conditions? He fell asleep hoping that Lisa, Ryan, and Alex were ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. He had no idea that the real question was whether the Galactic Defense Academy was ready for them. The alarm sounded at dawn, filling the academy dormitories with a sharp, piercing tone. Lisa Harper was already awake, sitting on the edge of her bed and checking her equipment one more time. The sleeping quarters were larger than what she was used to on Earth, with high ceilings and air that felt a bit too clean. Around her, alien cadets were waking up slowly. A Thakari named Zixka was struggling to get out of bed, his forearms tangled in what looked like a heating blanket. 2 Vorthan cadets were checking small devices that beeped softly, probably monitoring their crystal formations. The pelagic cadet in the corner was spraying herself with water from a bottle she kept beside her bed. Ryan O'Brien walked over to Lisa, already dressed and ready. "Did you see how long it took them to get ready yesterday? We're going to be waiting here forever." Alex Turner joined them, yawning but alert. "Maybe we should help them? I mean, we're all on the same team now." Lisa nodded. She walked over to Zixka, who was still fighting with his blanket. "Hey, need a hand?" The Thakari looked up at her with his large compound eyes. "Human Lisa, I am having difficulty with the temperature regulation device. My body requires additional warmth to function properly in this environment." Lisa helped untangle the blanket and showed him how to fold it quickly. "There you go. Ready for training?" Zixka made a clicking sound that she had learned meant gratitude. "Thank you. I confess I am nervous about today's exercise. The instructors say it will test our limits." 20 minutes later, all the cadets had gathered in the main training facility. The room was enormous, with equipment and simulation devices that Lisa had never seen before. Commander Zelith stood at the front with General Klixth and several other instructors. "Today you will face the Academy's Standard Survival Challenge," Commander Zelith announced. "You will be divided into mixed teams and placed in our harsh environment simulator. The exercise will last 12 hours and test your ability to work together under difficult conditions." General Klixth stepped forward. "The simulator recreates a Class 8 hostile environment. Gravity will be increased to 1.2 standard. Temperature will range from 5 to 40 degrees Celsius. You will have limited water and must complete several objectives while helping your teammates survive." Lisa exchanged glances with Ryan and Alex. A Class 8 hostile environment sounded serious to the aliens, but the conditions General Klixth described were milder than a typical day in many parts of Earth. "Teams will consist of 4 cadets from different species," Commander Zelith continued. "This will test your ability to adapt to different capabilities and limitations." The instructors began calling out team assignments. Lisa found herself grouped with Zixka the Thakari, a Sauron named Sess who had scales that changed color, and a pelagic cadet called Nyx whose skin was bright blue. "Remember," General Klixth said as the teams formed up, "this exercise has a 15% failure rate. It is designed to push you beyond your comfort zone. Some of you may not complete all objectives, and that is acceptable. The goal is to learn your limits." The teams were led into separate simulation chambers. Lisa's chamber looked like a rocky desert with red sand and scattered boulders. The moment they stepped inside, she felt the gravity increase and the temperature rise. Her alien teammates immediately began breathing harder. "Oh no," Sess whispered, his scales turning a pale yellow color. "This heat is intense. I do not know if I can function in these conditions." Nyx was already opening a pack and pulling out what looked like cooling pads. "I brought extra thermal regulators, but they will only last a few hours." Zixka was moving, slowly, his forearms shaking slightly. "The gravity is crushing. How are we supposed to complete objectives when movement is so difficult?" Lisa looked around at her struggling teammates and made a decision. "Okay, listen up. I know this seems bad, but we can handle this. Sess, those scales of yours, do they help regulate temperature?" "Yes, but not in extreme heat like this." "Then stay in the shade as much as possible." "Nyx, how often do you need to use those cooling pads?" "Every 30 minutes or I will overheat." "Got it. Zixka, the gravity is tough, but you're stronger than you think. Let's take this step by step." The first objective was to locate a water source marked on their map. It was 2 kilometers away across the desert terrain. Lisa noticed that her teammates were already struggling after just a few minutes of walking. "Wait," she said, stopping the group. "Let me carry some of your gear. That will make it easier for you to move." "Human Lisa," Zixka protested. "You are not responsible for our limitations." "We're a team," Lisa replied, taking his heavy pack and slinging it over her shoulder along with her own. "Teams help each other." As they walked, Lisa found herself setting the pace and choosing the path. She guided them from shadow to help Seth stay cool, found the flattest routes to make walking easier for Zixka, and reminded Nyx when it was time to use her cooling pads. The water source turned out to be a small spring hidden behind some rocks. While her teammates rested and drank, Lisa studied the map for their next objective. "We need to build a shelter and signal beacon 2 kilometers north," she said. "The temperature is going to get hotter in a few hours." Seth looked at the map with worry. "That area has no shade at all. I cannot survive in direct sunlight for that long." Lisa thought for a moment. "What if we travel during the cooler parts and rest during the hottest? I can scout ahead while you guys rest." "That would mean you walk twice as far as us?" Nyx pointed out. "I'll be fine," Lisa said with a smile. "I actually like hiking." Over the next 8 hours, Lisa found herself becoming the unofficial leader of their team. She carried extra gear, scouted dangerous areas, and constantly encouraged her teammates when they struggled. When Zixka collapsed from exhaustion halfway to the shelter site, she helped him to shade and gave him half of her water ration. "Why, are you helping us so much?" Seth asked during one of their rest breaks. "Your species is supposed to be competitive and aggressive. The instructors told us that Deathworld inhabitants usually focus on individual survival." Lisa looked at him with confusion. "Where did you hear that? Humans work together all the time. That's how we survive." "But your world is so dangerous," Nyx said. "Surely cooperation is impossible when resources are scarce and threats are constant." "That's exactly when cooperation is most important," Lisa replied. "If we didn't help each other, none of us would make it." They completed the shelter objective, with 2 hours to spare. Lisa had done most of the heavy construction work while her teammates handled the technical aspects they were better suited for. The signal beacon was a team effort, with each cadet contributing their species' expertise. When the simulation ended, they were met by Dr. Velix and several other instructors. The Zentaurian scientist was holding a data pad and looked confused. "Cadet Harper," Dr. Velix said, "according to our monitors, you completed 73% more physical activity than your teammates. You carried an average of 40% more weight. Your heart rate and stress indicators remained stable throughout conditions that pushed your teammates to their physiological limits." Lisa shrugged. "I guess I'm used to hiking and camping. This wasn't too different from survival training back home." Dr. Velix made notes on his pad. "And you gave away 30% of your water ration and 25% of your food supplies to teammates who were struggling. They needed it more than I did. But this was an individual evaluation as well as a team exercise. Helping others could have hurt your personal score." Lisa stared at him like he had said something crazy. "Why would I care about my personal score? If my team failed?" Meanwhile, Ryan O'Brien's team had completed their exercise in record time. His teammates, a Crithari warrior named Grix, a Vorthan engineer called Tylith, and a Zentaurian scout named Quinn, were exhausted but amazed. "I have never seen anyone move so efficiently in high gravity," Grix admitted. "The Crithari were supposed to be the toughest species in the galaxy, but Ryan had outperformed him in every physical challenge. And the way he improvised solutions," Tylith added. "When our equipment failed, he created tools from debris that worked better than our original gear." Alex Turner's experience was similar. His team had faced a simulation with extreme weather changes and equipment failures. While his alien teammates struggled to adapt, Alex had treated each new challenge like a puzzle to solve. He helped his team not just survive, but excel. That evening, the instructors gathered to review the day's results. Every human cadet had not only completed their objectives but had done so while helping their alien teammates achieve success they never could have managed alone. "This is unprecedented," General Clixith said, reviewing the data. In 300 years of academy training, we have never seen first-day cadets perform at this level. Commander Zelith was studying biological readings from the humans. Their stress responses are completely different from ours. Conditions that cause panic and exhaustion in other species seem to energize them. Dr. Valix looked up from his analysis. I am beginning to suspect that what we call harsh environment training might be considered normal daily conditions on their homeworld. That's impossible, protested Commander Yath, a Sauron instructor. No intelligent species could evolve under conditions that severe. And yet, General Clixith said quietly, here they are. The combat training facility was the largest room in the academy. High walls surrounded a floor made of some kind of material that could change shape and texture at will. Weapon racks lined the sides, filled with training devices from 12 different worlds. Alex Turner stood with his teammates, watching alien instructors demonstrate proper fighting techniques. Combat in civilized warfare follows strict protocols, announced Master Sergeant Greth, a massive Crethari with scarred chitin plates covering his body. We engage at range when possible. We use superior technology and tactics. We avoid direct confrontation unless absolutely necessary. The Crethari were considered the best warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the Galactic Alliance. Greth had personally fought in 8 major conflicts and trained thousands of soldiers. His reputation was legendary. Today we will practice basic combat scenarios, Greth continued. You will work in pairs. One will be the attacker, one the defender. The goal is to demonstrate proper technique and tactical thinking. Ryan O'Brien raised his hand. What about close quarters combat? Hand-to-hand fighting? Several alien cadets made sounds of surprise. Greth's compound eyes focused on Ryan with what might have been amusement. Close combat is a last resort for desperate situations, Greth explained. Civilized species avoid such primitive methods. We have evolved beyond the need for physical violence. Lisa Harper looked confused. But what if you lose your weapons? What if the enemy gets too close? Then you have already failed, said Commander Vex, a Vorthon instructor whose crystal formations sparkled as he spoke. Proper planning and superior technology prevent such scenarios. The training began with ranged combat using energy weapons set to training mode. The alien cadets performed adequately, following precise movements they had obviously memorized. They stood in formation, fired in coordinated patterns, and moved according to established tactical doctrines. When it was the humans' turn, something felt different. Alex held his training weapon naturally, as if it was an extension of his body. He moved smoothly between positions, adapting his stance based on the simulated terrain and enemy positions. His shots were more accurate than the alien cadets, but that wasn't what caught the instructor's attention. It was the way he moved, like he was hunting. Interesting adaptation, Greth noted, making marks on his data pad. Human Alex shows unusual comfort with weapons. The real surprise came during the defensive scenarios. Each team had to protect a position while simulated enemies attacked from multiple directions. The alien teams followed their training perfectly, setting up overlapping fields of fire and calling out target information in clear, calm voices. Lisa's team faced the same scenario, but her response was completely different. Instead of staying in defensive positions, she studied the attack pattern for 30 seconds, then did something that shocked everyone watching. She attacked. Not a wild, panicked charge, but a calculated flanking maneuver that turned the defensive scenario into a counteroffensive. She moved fast and low, using cover that the alien cadets hadn't even noticed. Within minutes, she had eliminated half the simulated attackers and forced the others to retreat. That was not the correct response, Commander Vex said, his voice tight with disapproval. The exercise was about defense, not attack. But I stopped. Them, Lisa replied, genuinely confused. Isn't that the point? You were supposed to demonstrate proper defensive protocols, Greth explained, not improvise unauthorized tactics. Ryan stepped forward. With respect, sir, her tactic worked. Why does it matter if it wasn't in the manual? The question seemed to disturb the instructors. They had spent centuries perfecting their combat doctrines based on the experiences of 12 species. The idea that someone would ignore established methods was almost incomprehensible. The next exercise was close quarters combat, something the Academy taught only as a theoretical last resort. The alien cadets were awkward and uncomfortable. Their movements were stiff and mechanical. Most species had evolved as prey animals or herd creatures. Fighting close to an enemy triggered deep instinctual fears. When Zixka faced off against a pelagic cadet named Cole, both moved carefully and tentatively. They followed the prescribed forms exactly, more like a dance than actual combat. The match ended when Zixka managed to touch Cole's shoulder with his training weapon according to the rules. Then Alex stepped up to spar with Grix, the Krathari warrior who was supposed to be the best close combat fighter among the alien cadets. The moment the match began, everyone in the room could see that something was wrong. Alex didn't move like the others. His stance was relaxed but ready. His eyes tracked Grix's movements with an intensity that made several alien observers step back. When Grix attacked with a standard Krathari combat technique, Alex didn't just defend. He countered with 3 quick moves that sent Grix stumbling backward. Then he pressed his advantage with a series of attacks that were not in any manual. He moved like water, flowing around Grix's defenses and striking from angles the Krathari couldn't predict. The match was over in seconds. Grix was on the ground, Alex's training weapon at his throat. But what disturbed the watching instructors wasn't Alex's victory. It was the look in his eyes. For just a moment, Alex Turner hadn't looked like a cheerful young cadet. He had looked like something that hunted for a living. "How did you learn to fight like that?" Greth asked, his voice unusually quiet. Alex helped Grix to his feet and smiled his normal, friendly smile. "Basic training, sir. Every soldier learns hand-to-hand combat." "That was not basic technique," Commander Vex said. "That was advanced combat doctrine. Maybe our basic is different from yours," Alex suggested. The training continued, but the instructors were clearly unsettled. When Ryan faced a Sauron cadet, he won even faster than Alex had. Lisa's match against a Vorthon ended so quickly that several observers asked to see the security footage to understand what had happened. The most disturbing moment came during the final exercise. The scenario was designed to test psychological limits. Cadets were placed in a hopeless situation where defeat was certain. The goal was to see how they handled inevitable failure and whether they could maintain dignity and surrender. Every alien species had predictable responses. The Thakari tried to negotiate. The Vorthons analyzed the situation logically and accepted defeat. The Krathari fought until they were overwhelmed, then surrendered with honor. The Pelagics tried to escape. The Saurons attempted to find defensive positions, all acceptable responses that showed civilized thinking and proper military bearing. The human cadets did something that no one had ever done before in the 300-year history of the Academy. They won. Not through luck or accident, but through a coordinated assault that turned an unwinnable scenario into a costly victory. They used the training facility's environmental hazards as weapons. They sacrificed individual safety for tactical advantage. They continued fighting past the point where every other species would have given up. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy it. "This is impossible," Dr. Valek said, staring at the combat recordings. "The scenario was mathematically designed to be unwinnable. We have run thousands of cadets through this exercise. No one has ever achieved victory." General Klixeth was studying biological readings from the human cadets. "Look at their stress responses during combat. Most species show elevated fear and anxiety. The humans show increased focus and performance. Their heart rates actually improve under pressure," Dr. Velix added. "Their reaction times get faster. Their coordination becomes more precise. This is completely backwards from normal psychology." Commander Zelith made another entry in the growing human file. "Human combat performance exceeds all known parameters. They appear to treat warfare not as a necessary evil, but as a natural activity. Most concerning, they display tactical innovation under pressure that suggests extensive combat experience, despite their young ages." That evening, the alien instructors held an emergency meeting. The video recordings of human combat performance were played and replayed. Expert analysts from all 12 species studied the footage, trying to understand what they were seeing. "They fight like apex predators," observed Master Sergeant Greth. "Not like civilized beings defending themselves, but like hunters who have evolved for killing. The way they move, the way they think, the way they respond to threat," added Commander Vex. "Everything about their combat behavior suggests a species that has been at war for thousands of years." Dr. Velix pulled up Earth's historical data. According to their records, humans have been fighting continuously throughout their entire recorded history. Not just occasional conflicts, but constant warfare. Wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion. They have never known true peace. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We assumed that surviving on a death world would create beings focused on individual survival," General Clixith said slowly. "But what if it created something else? What if it created perfect warriors?" "The question is," Commander Zelith said, quietly, "are we training with allies or with predators?" Outside in the dormitories, the human cadets were playing cards with their alien teammates and sharing stories about home. They had no idea that their natural fighting abilities had terrified every instructor in the academy. Still, the announcement came 3 weeks after the humans arrived at the academy. General Clixith stood before all the cadets in the main assembly hall, his forearms moving in what experienced students recognized as a gesture of serious importance. "The time has come for the Nightmare Protocol," he declared. "This is your final examination. You will spend the next month in our most challenging simulation. Only those who complete this test will graduate from the Galactic Defense Academy." A nervous murmur ran through the assembled cadets. The Nightmare Protocol was legendary among military training programs across the galaxy. It was designed to break cadets down completely and then see who could build themselves back up. Commander Zelith activated a holographic display showing a barren, rocky world with constant storms and treacherous terrain. "You will be divided into survival groups and placed on the surface of Xerion 7, a Class 11 death world. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Equipment will fail. Weather will turn deadly. Food will run short. You will face moral choices with no correct answers." Velix stepped forward with his datapad. Historical statistics show that approximately 30% of cadets require early extraction due to psychological breakdown. Another 25% fail to complete all objectives. This is not considered failure. It is valuable learning about personal limitations. Lisa Harper raised her hand. "What kind of moral choices?" "Scenarios where saving one teammate might doom another," General Clixith explained. "Situations where following orders conflicts with personal ethics. Moments where individual survival conflicts with group welfare." These tests reveal character under ultimate pressure. The cadets were divided into mixed groups of 8. Lisa found herself with familiar faces: Zixka the Thakari, Cess the color-changing Sauron, and Nyx the Pelagic. But there were also cadets she barely knew: Corex, a proud Krathari warrior; Thylon, a logical Vorthon engineer; Quilon, a nervous Centaurian scout; and Vextar, a stoic being from the rock-like Gorvani species. Ryan O'Brien's group included Grix, the Krathari, and several cadets from species known for their mental toughness. Alex Turner was placed with a group that included some of the Academy's most competitive students. "Remember," Commander Zelith said as they prepared to enter the simulation chambers, "this test has broken cadets who went on to become famous generals. There is no shame in discovering your limits." The simulation began at dawn on what appeared to be the surface of an alien world. The sky was dark red, filled with swirling clouds that flashed with lightning. The ground was covered in sharp rocks and strange plants that looked dangerous to touch. The air smelled of sulfur and metal. Lisa's group started with basic equipment: shelter materials, water purification tablets, emergency food for 5 days, and communication devices. The first disaster struck within hours. During a sudden storm, their shelter was destroyed and half their equipment was lost. While her alien teammates huddled together in despair, Lisa was already moving. She found natural windbreaks between the rocks and used salvaged materials to create a new shelter that was actually better than their original one. How did you know to do that? Thylin asked, shivering despite the thermal blanket Lisa had given him. Camping, Lisa replied simply. You learn to make do with what you have. By the end of the first week, a pattern had emerged in all the human groups. While alien cadets struggled with each new disaster, equipment failures, severe weather, contaminated water supplies, food shortages, the humans adapted quickly and kept their teams functioning. Ryan's group faced a scenario where their communication, equipment failed and one teammate was seriously injured. The alien cadets wanted to wait for rescue, but Ryan organized an expedition to find help. He carried the injured Krathari warrior for 15 kilometers across dangerous terrain, refusing multiple offers to rest. Your endurance is impossible, Grix gasped during one of their brief stops. I am supposed to be the strongest warrior here, but I cannot keep up with you. You're injured, Ryan pointed out. I'm just doing what anyone would do. No, Grix said quietly. This is not what anyone would do, this is what heroes do. Alex's group encountered their breaking point during the second week. They were forced to choose between saving their food supplies or rescuing a simulated civilian who was trapped in a collapsed building. The alien cadets debated for hours, calculating risks and analyzing probability of success. Alex didn't debate. He went into the building alone and brought out the survivor, even though it meant their group would have to survive on half rations for the remaining weeks. That was illogical, Velith, a Vorthon cadet, told him afterward. You risked 8 lives to save one simulated person. It wasn't simulated to me, Alex replied. Someone needed help. The real test came during the third week, when the simulation introduced the psychological pressure scenarios. Lisa's group faced their moment when they discovered that their water supply was contaminated, and they only had enough purification tablets for half the team. The alien cadets immediately began discussing who should get the clean water. They tried to calculate who was most valuable to group survival. Corex the Krathari insisted that warriors should get priority. Thylin the Vorthon suggested distributing based on biological need. The others argued for drawing lots. Lisa ended the debate by giving all her tablets to her teammates. I'll drink the contaminated water, she said. My immune system can probably handle it better than yours. That is suicide, Sess protested, his scales flashing bright red with alarm. The contamination could kill you. Maybe, Lisa admitted. But I'd rather risk one person than definitely lose half the team. She was sick for 3 days. Her alien teammates took turns caring for her, bringing her water, keeping her warm, and refusing to let her help with group tasks. When she recovered, Nyx the Pelagic approached her privately. Why did you do that? You could have died. Lisa looked confused by the question. You're my teammates. That's what teammates do. No, Nyx said slowly. That is what family does. Doctor, Velix was monitoring all groups from the control room, and what he saw in the data made no sense. Human stress responses were completely backwards from every known psychology textbook. Instead of breaking down under pressure, they became more focused and effective. Look at this, he said to General Klixth, pointing at the readouts. Human heart rates and brain activity actually improve during crisis situations. Their decision-making gets faster and more accurate when conditions become life-threatening. And their teammate interactions, Commander Zelith added, studying behavioral data. Most species become more selfish and competitive under extreme stress. The humans become more cooperative and self-sacrificing. By the 4th week, something unprecedented was happening in the simulation. Groups with human members were not just surviving the nightmare protocol. They were helping other groups survive too. Ryan had organized a rescue mission to find a missing group of Zentaurian cadets who had gotten lost during a storm. Lisa's team was sharing resources with a group whose equipment had completely failed. Alex had led 3 different rescue operations for cadets who had been injured or become trapped. This violates the entire purpose of the exercise, Master, Sergeant Greth observed. The test is designed to reveal individual breaking points. Instead, the humans are preventing anyone from breaking. The final crisis came on day 28. A massive simulated earthquake destroyed most shelters and separated the groups. Communication systems failed completely. Several cadets were trapped under debris. Food and water supplies were running critically low. In previous years, this scenario had broken even the toughest alien cadets. The combination of physical danger, resource scarcity, and isolation typically caused massive psychological collapse requiring emergency extraction. The human cadets treated it like a complex problem. To solve, Lisa organized search and rescue teams. Ryan established a central supply distribution point. Alex coordinated communication between separated groups using improvised signal systems. Working together across their different assigned groups, they turned a disaster scenario into a community response effort. When the simulation finally ended, every single cadet had survived and completed their objectives. It was the first time in the Academy's 300-year history that the Nightmare Protocol had a 0 failure rate. Impossible, Dr. Velix whispered, staring at the final statistics. 37 cadets from 12 different species, all successful. The mathematical probability of this outcome is essentially 0. General Klixth was reviewing video footage of the humans during their most challenging moments. "They do not break," he said quietly. "Pressure that destroys other minds makes them stronger and more determined. The question is no longer about their capabilities," Commander Zelith said, making final notes in the human file. "The question is about their nature. Are we looking at the most dangerous species in the galaxy, or the most protective?" As the exhausted cadets were brought out of the simulation chambers, the human cadets were immediately surrounded by their alien teammates. Dozens of beings from different worlds wanted to thank them, to understand them, to learn from them. The Academy's instructors now faced an uncomfortable reality. They had designed the ultimate test to break military cadets and reveal their limitations. The graduation ceremony took place in the Academy's Grand Hall, a massive chamber with crystal walls that showed the stars beyond. Representatives from all 12 member species had traveled to Kepler Station to witness the first class to include human cadets. The ceremony should have been a routine celebration of another successful training group. Instead, it had become the most important military event in galactic history. General Klixth stood at the podium, his forearms moving slowly as he addressed the assembled crowd. Behind him, screens displayed the unprecedented statistics from the Nightmare Protocol: 0 failures, record completion times, and psychological profiles that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about military training. "Honored delegates," General Klixth began, "we gather today not just to celebrate graduates, but to acknowledge a fundamental shift in our understanding of military science and species cooperation." In the front row, Jake Morrison sat with Earth's newly arrived diplomatic team. Word had spread quickly through galactic communication networks about the human cadets' performance. Every major species wanted to understand what Earth had sent to the Academy. "For 3 centuries, General Klixth continued, this Academy has operated on the principle that military excellence comes from advanced technology, superior tactics, and individual achievement. The human cadets have taught us that we were only partially correct." Lisa Harper stood with her fellow graduates wearing the Academy's silver and blue dress uniform. Around her were the alien cadets she had trained with: Zixka, Sess, Nix, Grix, and dozens of others who had become more than teammates. They had become family. "We expected the human cadets to struggle with our training," General Klixth said. "Their world is classified as hostile to intelligent life. We assumed that survivors of such conditions would be focused on individual survival, aggressive, and difficult to integrate with other species." Commander Zelith stepped forward to present the detailed findings. The holographic display showed comparisons between human and alien performance across every training metric. Human cadets completed survival training 340% faster than the galactic average, Commander Zelith announced. They demonstrated combat effectiveness 450% above standard parameters. Most remarkably, they showed stress responses that improved performance rather than degrade it. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Representatives from warrior species, like the Krathari, looked uncomfortable. Delegates from the peaceful Vorthons seemed fascinated. The Zentorian scientists were furiously taking notes, However, Commander Zelith continued, these statistics tell only part of the story. The true significance of human performance lies not in their individual capabilities, but in how they used those capabilities. The display changed to show videos from the training exercises. Scene after scene showed human cadets helping alien teammates, sharing resources and sacrificing personal advancement for group success. Dr. Velix took the podium next. Our analysis reveals that human psychology is fundamentally different from any previously studied species. Where other beings become more self-centered under stress, humans become more cooperative. Where others break down under pressure, humans become more focused on protecting others. Ryan O'Brien caught Jake Morrison's eye and smiled. He had no idea that his simple acts of helping teammates had become subjects of intense scientific study. To him, it had just been the right thing to do. The lesson we have learned, Dr. Velix continued, is that evolution on a death world did not create perfect predators focused on individual survival. It created perfect protectors focused on group survival. The audience was completely silent now. This was more than graduation ceremony. This was a revelation that would reshape galactic military doctrine. General Klixth returned to the podium. The human cadets have achieved something unprecedented in Academy history. Not only did they excel in every training scenario, but they ensured that every other cadet succeeded alongside them. They turned individual competition into community cooperation. Alex Turner looked around at his alien classmates and felt a warm satisfaction. The training had been challenging and fun, but the best part was the friendships he had made with beings from different worlds. He hoped they would stay in touch after graduation. Today we implement new protocols based on human methods, General Klixth announced. The human protocol recognizes that different species have different strengths, and that diversity creates more effective military units than homogeneity. The changes were revolutionary. Future training would focus on cooperative achievement rather than individual competition. Mixed species teams would become standard rather than experimental. The Academy would teach alien cadets the human concepts of no one left behind and team before self. Most importantly, General Klixth said, we invite human instructors to join our permanent faculty. They will teach survival skills, tactical innovation, and something we never thought could be taught: how to use strength to protect rather than dominate. Commander Zelith stepped forward with the final announcement. The Galactic Defense Council has voted unanimously to establish the first joint human-alien military academy on Earth itself. Representatives from all member species will train in the conditions that created these remarkable beings. Jake Morrison almost laughed at the irony. The galaxy wanted to send their warriors to train on the death world that had produced such effective soldiers. They still didn't understand that Earth's harshness had taught humans cooperation, not just survival. The individual graduations began with traditional honors for each species. When they reached the human cadets, something unexpected happened. Instead of the standard individual recognition, every alien graduate insisted on sharing the stage with their human teammates. Zixka spoke for the Thakari delegation. Human Lisa taught me that strength exists to help others, not to prove superiority. She carried my equipment when I was weak, shared her food when I was hungry, and risked her life when I was in danger. I graduate today because she made my success possible. Grix, the Krathari warrior who had been humbled in combat training, stepped forward next. Human Ryan showed me the difference between fighting and protecting. I thought I was a warrior, but he taught me what warriors truly fight for: the safety of those who cannot protect themselves. One by one, alien cadets shared similar stories. The humans had not just completed their training, they had transformed the understanding of what military service meant. When Lisa finally took the podium to speak for the human delegation, her words were simple and direct. We came here to learn from you, and we did. You taught us about different technologies, different tactics, and different ways of thinking. But I think maybe we taught you something too. That being strong doesn't mean standing alone. It means making sure no one has to stand alone. The ceremony concluded with the reading of the new Academy motto, replacing the ancient phrase that had emphasized individual excellence: united in strength, stronger in unity. As the graduates dispersed to celebrate with their families and species representatives, the human cadets found themselves surrounded by alien friends who didn't want to say goodbye. Plans were made for visits, exchanges, and continued cooperation. Dr. Velix approached Jake Morrison with his final report. Lieutenant Commander, our analysis is complete. Your species has presented us with a paradox that will take decades to fully understand. What kind of paradox? Jake asked. You are simultaneously the most dangerous and most protective species we have ever encountered. You have capabilities that could allow you to dominate the galaxy through force, but you choose to use those capabilities to help others succeed. Jake smiled. That's not a paradox. That's just being human. Dr. Velix made one final note in the human file. After extensive study, we conclude that humans are not dangerous because they are strong. They are safe because they are strong. The same conditions that could have created galaxy-conquering predators instead created galaxy-protecting guardians. As Kepler Station's night cycle began, the human cadets gathered one last time with their alien classmates. They shared stories, exchanged contact information, and made promises to stay in touch across the vast distances of space. None of them realized that they had just begun the most important alliance in galactic history. They thought they were simply saying goodbye to friends after a successful training program. The alien instructors knew better. In their classified reports, they recorded the truth that would guide galactic policy for generations to come. Every alien species discovered the same lesson about Deathworld Cadets. They are not survivors who learn to endure hell. They are protectors who learn to create heaven for others, even in the worst conditions imaginable. The first human class had graduated from the Galactic Defense Academy. But more importantly, they had graduated the entire galaxy to a new understanding of what strength really meant. The lesson was complete. Humans didn't just survive death worlds. They made any world worth living on for everyone around them.